What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fresh Hope for Better You podcast. As always, I'm your host, Oliver Goulet, and I'm here to bring you some fresh hope for your day. As always, I start off the podcast by just saying I'm truly grateful. I'm grateful for the life I live. I'm grateful for the life of the people that I'm able to impact on a weekly basis that tune into the podcast. You guys have been leaving great ratings and reviews, which are always greatly appreciated. It helps me grow, helps me impact more people. So I just want to start off with saying thank you. And you guys have been really enjoying all the podcast guests that I've been bringing on. And today I have another special guest. He is a fellow Arete brother, Greg Birch. He is a unit of a human being. I can just say that. Greg is a veteran father and entrepreneur who works in the financial world, along with being a fitness, nutrition, and mindset coach who owns Delta Fit. Welcome aboard, Greg.
What's going on, Oliver? I appreciate having you on the show.
Yeah, not a problem, brother. So why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? First off, I want to start off with saying this dude, once you see his social media, is a fucking unit of a human being. This man's a monster. And when I met him this summer, his presence was well known. It's funny because before he got on stage to speak at Josh Koshnick's event, motherfucker is downstairs just busting out push-ups left and right. Oh, it was just some it just showed what kind of person he was right there and then the first time I met him. So I'm gonna start off with just saying that.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I like to do push-ups. So I do 1,000 push-ups every day. And every time I tell people that, they're like they look at me like it's a crazy. And it kind of is a crazy amount, but I didn't start there. I worked my way up, and literally anybody can do it as long as it's just you consistently do it every day. I'm also a fellow Legionnaire, so I got picked up by my first form as Legionnaire. Um, So a little bit about me. Yeah, as a prior military officer, I spent 11 years in the Army, went to both Iraq and Afghanistan, ended up getting out of the military in 2017, and didn't know what I wanted to do because I spent the first 11 years of my adulthood being told what to do by Uncle Sam. So it was kind of like, whatever. I started off actually in a career style job, salary job. That I worked with somebody that I knew in the military. He was my commander in Iraq, and he had gotten out before me, so we worked together, and that's how I ended up in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas area. Worked with him for about 4 months. Really hated the job, didn't like it at all, and so I ended up quitting and leaving there. And so didn't know what to do, and I saw a Indeed ad for sales leading to management, and I was like, well, I was like, I kind of want to do sales. I think I can be good at it. And I got a lot of leadership experience from the military. So this sounds right up my alley. Applied. The job was it was in the insurance world. They have basically like fake ads. It's kind of like a bait and switch. And so because Indeed, they don't allow 1099 positions to be on there. So they'll change the company, make it something else. You show up to the interview, and so being 1099 life insurance. And I got there, I was like, dude, I feel kind of skeevy. Like, I don't know about this. But I was like, I'm not doing anything else. So I can get my license. And if I like it, awesome. And if I don't like it, I'll do something else. And the reason I stuck around also is because everyone that was there that was working, they all had nice suits. They all were wearing nice watches. They all drove nice cars. And so they were making money. And I kind of looked around and I was like, dude, if they can do it, then I can definitely do it because these guys are not are not that exceptional. So so yeah, I got my license and I started just sprinting in the insurance world. And I started off really well. I ended up breaking some records in the company I was in. I got the #1 agent in the entire company nationwide. That was brand new. And it was they had a competition between all the new agents within the first 2 years. And I got #1. And so I ended up leaving that company and kind of going from company to company because one, because of leads, but two, because of just the structure of what they were doing there. I didn't agree with it. And so I spent all of that in the end of 2017. And 2018 is when I really started to go from company to company. And I didn't really sell that well because I got anyone that sales, you could probably they can attest to this. If you have a lot of success on the beginning, it gives you a bit of an ego, and and then you stop doing the basics. And so I stopped doing the basics, in that first full year that I was in insurance, because I had so much success coming in with the momentum I built, that I sucked really bad in 2018. And it wasn't until the end of 2018 I had a conversation with somebody that was crushing it. And I reached out to him to ask what he was doing and see if I could get some guidance and some mentorship. And he just looked at me and he asked me some questions. He got to see like what was my daily structure like, how's my business going, how my calls doing, how am I controlling my activity, et cetera, et cetera. And he's asking those questions. And I thought I was answering them well. I was really tap dancing. And he just looks at me and he's like, "Hey, Greg, I know what your problem is, man. You think you're special and you're not. Mm-hmm. And your problem is this, that, the other." And so it was because of that conversation that I completely did a 180, and I started focusing back on the basics, and I started to get better at sales. And it was through this process of getting better at sales that I started to coach and teach agents on how to get better at sales. And a lot of the things I was doing was I was just controlling my schedule. I was controlling myself as a good human being, right? I was exercising. I was eating right. I was feeding my brain. I was controlling when I went to sleep and when I got up. I didn't stay up late watching TV or partying, right? I was reading daily. I was doing a lot of the basic things that people, when I told them, I was just like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing to be successful." They looked at me like I was crazy. They just wanted a hack. They wanted a, "Hey, you say this to a client and they're going to buy every time" kind of thing. They wanted us like this script that they could practice over and over again. And it wasn't that for me. It was, I'm just being a good human being and I'm taking care of people. And I truly do, when I sat down with a client, and as I still do, I find out if I can even help them. I'm not trying to disqualify them. I'm trying to say like, "Hey, my services won't work for you. And here's why I think you should go with this, that, the other." Is that I'm being very honest with them and I'm being very authentic. And what I found is that 9 times out of 10, people still want to go with me, even if I show them somewhere else, or they refer me all the friends, their family, their acquaintances, because they're like, "Hey, this guy's gonna do right by you," right? And so I kind of got a passion for coaching through this because I was doing so well in sales, and I'm really giving wave tops, here, and that's how I got to Delta Fit. How I guess where I'm at now is this year I created finally Delta Fit because I spoke to some coaches and they saw that I was coaching people in the insurance industry, and they're like, "Why aren't you coaching more people?" Right? Like, you have a story, you have people you can help. And after I heard the third coach tell me that through podcasting that I've been doing, I was like, well, that's a sign. I think I need to do this. And I started Delta Fit in April of this year. And here we go. So still doing my insurance, I have an insurance agency that I own, that we have agents nationwide. And then I do this on the side, really, but it's really my passion. I spend more time coaching than anything else. So.
Oh yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think one of the biggest things most coaches miss and why they're not successful is because they're just chasing that sale. They don't actually give a fuck about their people. And people that excel with coaching, like yourself and I, it's the fact that we truly care. We want what's best for the person. We're not afraid to tell a person, this isn't going to work for you. I'm not going to sell you on something that's not going to work, because guess what? That makes me look fucking bad. I'm here to look good. I'm here to help people and build my brand, because if I sell you something and it doesn't help you get the results that you desire, what does that make my brand look like?
Exactly.
That's like, people pushing supplements. You go to a GNC compared to Supplement Superstore. Supplement Superstore is going to ask you, okay, what are you doing with your nutrition before you start taking all these supplements? You go to GNC, then like, "Oh, buy this supplement, it'll help you burn fat." And it's like, yeah, if you're eating 2,000 extra calories a day, you're not going to fucking lose weight. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
That's the reality of it is. And people what you said is, on stage, I specifically remember, is you tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And that is what a coach needs to do. And that's what friends need to do. And for the audience listening, if you are around people that tell you what you want to hear, you need to reevaluate your circle. You need to find people that are going to tell you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. It's been bred into us society-wise in order to be politically correct and to be nice and not say anything, not ruffle feathers, not be argumentative, not challenge people. And I think it's made people weak. you know, and I suffered from weakness myself, to be honest, right? And so if you have seen a lot of your content, you know, and that's a lot of your content is about the weakness that you struggled with and overcame, and that's ultimately what it is, right? You know, whether you're struggling with vices, food, porn addiction, um, um, alcohol, drugs, just trying to get dopamine hits from your social media or from watching TV or whatever, and you're just wasting your time away. All those are just weakness. We're just suffering from weakness, and we've been become accustomed to this through society, right? And so, a lot of times, yeah, you're right. Like I'll tell people what they need to hear, and they may not like it, and I'll do it very candidly, but also with respect. It's like, hey, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings here, but this is the reality of the situation, and it is as such as if you continue down this road, you're doomed. Like, I was talking to somebody, for instance, I had a conversation with a guy the other day that was looking to get coaching, and he was in his early 30s. He was like 31, and he was his BMI was 36, bro. His over past the obese. His blood pressure is already high. He's pre-diabetic, and I'm like, bro, there's four different diseases that are considered the four horsemen of death, right, in the medical field, and it's cardiovascular disease, which you're starting with high blood pressure. It's diabetes, which you're starting to become pre-diabetic. It's cancer, and it's neurological diseases. Like once you get those, it's near impossible. There's no medication that can cure it. They can just stave off death, right? You're going to eventually die from it. And the only way to prevent it or to completely overcome it is nutrition and exercise. That's it. Like, and if you don't make a change, if you don't change this, right, you're gonna pass away. Like you're doomed. You're gonna pass away sooner than when you should. Like you're always gonna die, but you're gonna pass away much sooner, and you're gonna have a much unhappier existence. That's just the way of it, right? He may not want to hear it. And so we start talking about how, you know, his habits, daily habits, what's he eating. And I always get talk me through a day in the life of your eating. Oh, you know, it's pretty good. I eat some chicken and broccoli and rice. Bro, you're 36 BMI. Do not bullshit me, bro. Like, don't tell me that, right? Like, I know better, right? You don't have to try to impress me because I can't help you if you're not being honest. So we start digging in, and I get that all the time. I'm sure you do too. I get that all the time. Like, oh, I eat pretty good. No, you don't eat pretty good because you're obese, bro. And we start talking. He's going over how often he goes out to eat, which is like every day. And I'm like, dude, you do realize that you're spending more by going out to eat than if you made your own meals and you got a coach and you held yourself accountable. And he was just like, well, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can like not go out to eat. Like, you know, I don't know if I'm willing to do that. That to me, that right there is the weakness that I just prefaced. Like when you are controlled, I'm not saying it's bad to go out and get a bowl of Chipotle or to go with your kids to go every once in a while, go get some sweet frogs or whatever it is, you know, and going to get some food from a fast food restaurant or a restaurant. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're controlled by it and you can't stop it and you know it's damaging your health because you're doing it too often, that's a problem. That's where you have an addiction, and that's where the weakness comes in. And so, and this is something that all of us struggle and face, right? Because we want things easier. We want things to come to us right away. Like
instant gratification.
Yeah, eventually they're gonna have insta feed where it's just gonna be like Instacart where they're gonna like you order it and they're gonna come feed it to you. They're gonna come in your house. They're gonna start feeding you while you're sitting on the couch, and you just sit there like Jabba the Hutt. You know what I'm saying? like $1 billion app idea. It's happening. I'm telling you, but like it's getting that way, right? It's because people want everything done for them, and it's sad, but it's true.
So, you know, what's funny. So my girlfriend made a poll. She's a coach also. She made a poll in her Facebook group or like did some challenge to see how many steps people get per week. And the average steps out of like 20 people in her group was like 3,000 to 7,000 steps in a week.
In a
in
week?
a week, dude.
That's terrible.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I get 14 to 18,000 a day,
Yeah.
and I do spend a lot of my time behind a desk too, and it just shows like with everyone working behind computers, like no one's moving. The thing is, like, yes, you need to move, but like with everything being so readily available and DoorDash and like Instacart and all that shit, it's just like it's everyone has life so much easier and no one's willing to do anything. And it's just like it's not rocket science. And most people think it is like, oh, that dude just, been jacked and shredded. I mean, me, I have not always been jacked and shredded by any means.
I
You
haven't either, bro.
yeah, okay. See, I mean, looking at you, everyone would think looking at us like, oh, he's just had it easy. And it's like, no, I just made a change and it didn't all happen over once. And everyone thinks that, well, when I first started, I used to throw a ton of shit at my clients right away. Like, oh, here's the, golden path. Just do all these things and it'd be overwhelming as shit. But it just starts with like just one little thing at a time.
Yeah.
One little, and that's what makes long lasting changes, just making those small incremental things happen over a course of a time. Like, I'm 5 years into my journey. Like that's just how it is. And I've developed the habits, routines, and disciplines that allow me to, go out and eat the foods that I want when I want to. But most of the time it's me cooking my meals at home because it's healthier, it tastes better. And it's just like I don't have those cravings to go out to eat very much because ultimately I know what's in those foods and I know that's not gonna make me feel good. And I think like when you make the transition from eating healthy a majority of the time, when you go out, you literally your body feels the shit quality of the food.
Yes. Instantly, bro. Instantly.
Dude, it is wild. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you are on the same page because for a while there, everyone's like, dude, why don't you like to eat out? And I was like, dude, that food makes me feel like shit. Like, even if I go to like a sit down restaurant or anything, like most of the time the food still makes me feel like shit. Like this
Yeah.
weekend, I was down in Tennessee and we ate out every day for basically all our meals except for one. And every time I'd eat, I just feel freaking tired and just like shit. And it's like, yeah, this food sucks.
It also fucks with my stomach. Like I'll start like I'll get like uncontrollable gas anytime if I eat my food where I'm eating like chicken or salmon or tilapia. I eat a lot of rice, broccoli, asparagus, spinach, eggs, oatmeal, stuff like that. My protein shakes. I will have zero gastrointestinal issues. None. I eat out one time. 20 minutes later, I'm just like, dude, I got bubble guts. I'm like, dude, my
Dude,
stomach can't
so
handle this.
it is
It's
so bad.
instant, bro.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, and you just were over, you were in Europe a little bit
Yeah,
ago, weren't you? So
it
I'm
was.
curious. I've heard a lot of things about the food quality there versus here. So I want to hear your personal like perspective on this since you were just there. What did you notice?
Um, yeah, there's not a lot of processed foods. It's a lot of homemade, a lot of baked goods, a lot of pastries, breads, milks, cheeses, coffee. And northern Spain, there's a lot of cattle, so everything is locally sourced. So all these towns are tiny. So there'll be like a cow farmer in one town, and then like two towns over, it's like 3 kilometers. There'll be someone that's actually got a farm. So like they'll switch off and like sell each other stuff or like give each other stuff and barter that way. That way the people in that town will get meat, and then the people near town will get all the bread, the wheat, the any other crops that is growing on that farm. And so that's pretty typical in northern Spain, in the Galicia region that we hiked through. But the food was fine, like I didn't have any issues, and I ate a lot, bro. Like because we were burning so much, like we were walking. I was walking like 25,000 steps a day, you know, and we were walking for hours. So we would start at 9 a.m. and we wouldn't be done and get done till like 4 p.m. and just straight walking, with very short breaks. So by the time that we wouldn't eat much in the morning, we'd have like a couple of pastries and a cup of coffee, and like I'd have some eggs, and then we would eat on the road while we're walking. Like we'd stop somewhere at a coffee shop, and it would get like a small sandwich, and that's it. And then dinner, we'd have a huge dinner with a lot of protein. So and I I actually brought protein with me. It was in my backpack, and I just took protein shakes along the way because I want to keep my protein consumption high. And so I had zero issues. I didn't like I do here. If I were to go out to a restaurant here and eat, I notice it right away. There, nothing. It was like eating homemade food. So
So did you notice? So was there a lot of fat people in Spain?
no, there's not. There's not. No.
Well, that says something, with all the processed foods. I mean, if you want to necessarily be in good health, all you have to do is kind of cut that shit out. Like if you
Yeah.
just eat 3 square meals a day of non-processed, whole, single ingredient foods, I guarantee you'll lose weight. Like
No, there wasn't a lot of skinny people. I mean, it wasn't like everyone was skinny. There was skinny people. It wasn't like everyone was skinny or thin. There were people that that were older, that were a little bit. They weren't like heavy set, but they weren't obese, right? It was like I don't think I saw anyone that was like Walmart quality obesity. You know what I'm saying? Like
I
that
know
didn't
what you
that didn't exist there. Whereas like you can go out anywhere here in the States and you'll see it on a daily basis. You will see it. But living among the locals there, nah, you don't see it. Because and also they're outside all the time. They're outside, they're working. They actually have they're working in the farms. They don't have Uber Eats there. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no or Instacart, like it doesn't exist for them. They get everything locally.
That's funny because like in that like from a different perspective it's like okay, so America, we have all these things that come to us so easily, but yet it makes our lives even harder because it has negative side effects to how easy we want it, and like everyone's always seeking comfort, and the saying is seek discomfort or discomfort will seek you, and everyone's always seeking comfort, so guess what's going to seek you? Discomfort, which is why like I'm always doing things like cold plunges, working out, rucking, doing all these things because I don't want discomfort to fucking seek me later in life, and I don't want to have my life be restricted by my physical health. And that was like the number one limiting factor I used to have in my life was my physical health. And now that I've taken advantage of that, it's literally impacted every area of my life. So I want to make the transition into, 75 hard. I know that 75 hard has made a huge impact on both of our lives. And yeah, I just want you to share with the audience what your perspective and biggest takeaways and how it's really impacted your life is.
To say that it changed my life is such an understatement. I can't capture in words how profound it is and how much it's changed. Like I'm a different man today. I am. And I was first introduced to the program in 2020, at the end of 2020 in September, by a friend, and we started together. And I got 25 days in, and we both fell off. And I was like, got it. Like, work out, eat right, remove alcohol, got it. And I didn't have it. And it took for 2021 for me to fall into some depression, and I was getting over a breakup, and I was trying to focus on work. I was trying to really just get over that. And I was having a challenging time for like months from December 2020 until like to February 2021, trying to get over a breakup. And I was falling into depression. And so I was listening to the podcast. I still started listening to Andy all the time. And it was Omar. It was Omar v 75 Hard. I still remember the episode. And the way that Omar talked about it, I felt he was talking right to me, man. Like he's like, some of you motherfuckers out there, you get to like day 25 and you think, I got it. And he's like, you don't fucking got it. And I was like, that was me. And the way he discusses, like, hey, when you get to 70, like, you have to get to the end because at day 75, you're a different human being. You're a different person. It really does change you. And it does in such a miraculous, kind of fantastical way. I was like, that's what I need. And I didn't even think about it. I just started. Like the next day, I'm starting. I'm not quitting. I don't care. And I went through and I finished it, and it changed everything. It changed every part of my life. It changed my sales. I started selling way more, changed my business. I started podcasting because of it. At the time when I started, I was 280 pounds. I dropped down to 235 over 75 days. I dropped almost 50 pounds. I that's how I started coaching too, because people started reaching out because I changed so drastically. It was visible in my pictures. Like people would be like, dude, you're like a different person. When they talk to me, they could sense it, because I was reading more often. I was on a different playing field. I was like a different vibrational pattern,
Mhm.
right? I was like, I was a higher vibration, was more positive. And people could tell when they talked to me that they're like, dude, whatever magic potion you're drinking, I want it. And I was like, dude, I'm just following this program and it's changed my life. And so I started buying 75 hard books. I believed in so much. I started buying them in bulk. And over the course of the time I was buying them, I bought probably about 200 of them. And I would send them to people for free. As it's like, hey, you want a book? I'll send it to you. You just got to tell me, you got to give me your personal guarantee that you're going to read the book and you're going to start the program. That's it. And if you do, send me your address and I'll send it. And I sent out 200 different 75 hard books to people. And some people changed their life. And some people, I still talk to them today, like, yeah, I read it. And yeah, I started, but I didn't make it. And this, that, the other. So it is what it is, man. But I can't stress enough how powerful of a program it is.
Oh, dude, man, like that was a great explanation of what it's done for you because it did the same thing for me. Like I didn't. So when you first started it, like you didn't have like any preparation. Like I heard about it, I think 2 months before. It was like before my 22nd birthday, and I was like, on my 22nd birthday, I'm gonna start and do 75 hard. I like posted on Facebook. And then everyone's like, what the fuck's that? And then I told them, and they're like, oh, that's stupid. Like, why would you do that? Like, you don't need to do all that. And on day one, when I started it, I made the commitment and I finished it the first time around. And on day 75, I look back and it was like I was on my final like ruck, and I was like, dude, I am not the man I was 75 days ago. My entire life changed. I broke down. I was like, I just said goodbye to the old me. Like I will never go back to that person because I did start vibrating at a higher frequency and people started to notice that shit. And then people started asking me, like, what'd you do? All this stuff. And then like through that whole time, I had no idea what the fuck first one was. The
Yeah.
whole first
I
75
didn't either,
days.
bro. I didn't
Yeah.
either. I had no idea.
Yeah, and it was just wild. And then after I found out about it, and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's pretty sweet." I didn't know Andy owned a supplement company. I'm gonna start fucking buying the supplements. I'm sure they're good. Sure as shit, they're the best in the market. And then found out about the Legionair program, and I was like, "I think this is something I need to do," and just got to connect with like-minded individuals, and never really look back because that program truly changed my life. And it was just like, if more people like when I first started, I had so many of my friends and stuff like, oh, dude, you're stupid. Why would you do that? Like 75 soft, making all these jokes and like, oh, you can't drink and all this stuff. And then it's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that because I made a commitment to myself. And this program has been proven to work. I'm not the first motherfucker to do it to change his life. And I'm not going to be the last. That's for sure. Then when I
That's
completed
true.
it, all the people quit saying that shit because they saw how big of a transformation it made. And then they're like, we get it. We understand like what that program does. And most of them didn't do it. I had a couple of buddies that actually did it and they completed it. And then they kind of just fell back into the old habits after because sometimes it does happen when you don't make a commitment. Like ultimately, like I've done it. This is my fourth time. I'll be finishing it. I've done Live Hard twice, and it's something I'm gonna continue to do because it just holds your discipline at a standard and it impacts every area of your life. Like you said, it works in your business. It works in your relationships. People start to notice it, and the fact that it is a program that is here to stay. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's a fad program. It's really not, and it is
No,
sustainable. That's the thing. You could
it's
walk
very
twice.
sustainable. You can do it. You can do 365 days a year easily.
Yeah, you could walk twice a day. Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's days, my active recovery days, where I do walk twice a day because when you're trying to build muscle, you don't need to just beat yourself in the ground every single day. I did that the first time around 75 hard. It was just balls to the wall, pushing myself, and like, yeah, definitely made some mistakes with not knowing necessarily the proper nutrition. I was following a good nutrition program, but there was definitely a lot of things I could have done a lot better knowing what I know now. And I'm curious what your first time of doing 75 hard with your nutrition compared to now with all the knowledge and experiences you personally had. How was that like transition from when you first started to now?
So before I answer that, I hate to do this, dude. I gotta use the bathroom so bad. I
Oh,
drank
you're
like
good, bro.
5 gallons or like 5 big old bottles of water this morning. I'm gonna pause real quick and go use the bathroom real quick.
Hey, you're
Okay,
good,
two
brother. Hey,
seconds.
I'll edit it out. We're good, brother. We're good.
Okay. Sorry about that.
You're good,
So,
brother. No problem.
okay. So the first time I did 75 hard, I did intermittent fasting mixed with keto. And so I liked keto because for me, I always had this predisposition that I thought that carbs were bad for me because every time I ate carbs, I'd blow up. Now, here's the thing, is that I didn't understand how much carbs and fats I was eating versus protein and how much calories I was actually taking in. And so I always thought, well, every time I eat carbs, I'm blowing up. But if I eat all fats, I'm good. And it wasn't the case. And so there's two things here is intermittent fasting is not a diet. Okay. It's just a time that you're eating. That's it. Like everyone fasts, by the way. That's why breakfast is called breakfast, by the way. Like everyone should be fasting at least 12 hours a day from the time they eat dinner through their sleep until breakfast. Minimum, you should be fasting 12 hours a day. Doing intermittent fasting just increases the length of that fast. But what you'll typically find is if you do like a 16 and 8, where 16 hours you fast, 8 hours you eat, you're still eating the same amount of calories over the same amount of time frame. So it's still a 24-hour period. So just because you did it over 8 hours instead of 10 hours or 12 hours doesn't mean anything, right? And so you can't do intermittent. People talk to people all the time like, oh yeah, I'm on an intermittent fasting diet. That's not a diet, bro. That's just all you're doing is you're just, shoving all the food in an 8-hour window. Like, not a diet. So, everything I've learned from nutrition now, the number one thing is protein consumption. And so, and this is what I do with all my clients is like, hey, we got to have, it's calories in, calories out, right? How much calories are you taking in a day? And there's a range in which you're going to be in a weight loss mode, depending upon what your weight is and how much calories you're taking in each day. And then there's a range for maintenance and there's a range for weight gain. And then there's also your protein. So as long as you're hitting your protein and you're in your weight loss caloric deficit, you're going to lose weight depending upon how big that deficit is. It's just the way it is. Now, if I'm eating cleaner calories, if I'm eating single source material foods and I'm not eating a lot of processed foods and I'm not going out to eat a lot, I'm going to lose better and I'm going to feel healthier and it's going to be an easier process. But if I'm on a 2,000 calorie diet and I have to have 175 grams of protein, if I hit my 175 grams of protein and the rest of the calories and I stay under 2,000, but the rest of the calories I go to Dunkin' Donuts and I eat donuts, I'm still going to technically lose weight, right? I'm not going to feel great. Like I'm going to feel like crap, And that's why how I try to explain it now to people, because carbs don't make you lose weight, right? Or don't make you gain weight. Carbs aren't bad for you. It's that we're eating the wrong type of carbs. And also carbs don't turn into fat in the body. What happens is that your body burns carbs first because it's easier to burn. And then your body will also, if it doesn't have the right amount of protein in it to where protein synthesis is supposed to happen, it's going to take what's remaining protein, it's going to turn into carbs too. And then you have all that fat left over, which is just going to get stored. And so then that's what happens is that people are having a lot of fat being stored in their body. Now with keto, typically what happens is if you don't have any carbs, your body's forced to burn fat. And so it becomes what's called fat adjusted over time. And it starts burning fat more efficiently. But with that is it's still calories in, calories out. Because if you're eating a lot of fat and you're eating too much, you're not going to lose weight. It's not like your body's still going to burn it. It's not. So you have to be very cognizant. And I get a lot of people that come onto my program that want to do keto. And I'm like, hey, look, I'm not against keto. I did keto for many years and I lost weight with keto, but there's a lot of technical things with keto that like the amount of grams of fat that you need per gram of protein, right? In order to hit ketosis, like there's a lot of technical things and you can't just go eat a stick of butter. Like it doesn't work that way. Like you have to have high quality fats. And so it's very difficult to have 2 times the amount of fats than protein. It just is. Like, and it'll also have enough fiber a day, by the way. So without having any kind of processed foods. So nowadays I just count my macros, and which it gets. And I used to, dude, I was against counting macros for the longest time. I've been doing fitness since 2009 and nutrition since 2009, and I was the guy's like, dude, I'm counting my protein and that's it, right? And I eyeballed it. I was like, this is going to be about this much, right? And it took for me to finally be disciplined about it, to start literally logging my meals, I got on MyFitnessPal, started logging and weighing every single thing that I ate, for me to start learning. And I don't have to do that every meal now, because I know what a cup of jasmine rice is going to come out to. I know what 12 ounces of shredded chicken is going to come out to. I know exactly what it's going to be. So I've weighed it so many times and I've logged it that I know what I need in order on a daily basis to hit my protein and to stay at my, because I want to stay at a specific amount of carbs too, because I want to have higher carbs for energy, for clean energy. So I eat a lot of jasmine rice. I eat a lot of sweet potatoes. I eat a lot of broccoli, a lot of asparagus. I eat a lot of greens and carb sources. And most of my fat comes from my meats, and my meats are very lean. Chicken breast, tilapia, extra lean turkey breast, extra lean ground beef, extra lean bison, stuff like that. And people don't realize, if they did something as simple as take, a lot of people will get, I had a client that was like, hey, if you're eating any meat, make sure it's extra lean. And so he had a call with me and he was like, is 80-20 okay? And I was like, no, bro, no, it's not okay. And so I pulled it up and showed, it's like, this is how much fat you're getting. You're getting more grams of fat with 80-20 ground beef than you are grams of protein. And he was like, oh shit. I was like, so just simply, you eat the same amount of food. So if you had a pound of 96.4 ground beef versus a pound of 80-20, you're eating the same food, but you're getting more protein, way significantly less fat, and you're just as full. And just doing that switch right there will drastically reduce your calories. It will drastically. Like if you made that switch, something like that, man, you'd start losing weight.
Yeah, if they literally just made that simple switch to leaner cuts, because that's what I do right now. I'm in a bulk, so I'm eating 85% ground beef compared to when I'm in a cut, just going to the 96. That's all that really changes, and that's 400 or 500 calorie difference right there between the two meals I have that, and that's like something so simple, but yet people still don't understand that. They're like, oh, I'm eating ground beef and rice and stuff, and it's like, okay, how lean is that ground beef?
Yeah.
And it's like, 80-20. Yeah, that's not helpful. You are getting 200-300 more calories versus 96.4. And like, it's not rocket science. And it's just simple things like that that make the biggest differences, because you don't have to necessarily just eat clean all the time. It's like, if you just make that switch and 80% of the time you're eating clean, quality, lean, lean protein sources with whole foods, and 20% of the time you're not, you're going to lose weight as long as you're in calorie deficit. Like, you can always, that thing people don't get, like, yeah, you have to be in a calorie deficit, but ultimately, if you're not getting an adequate amount of protein, you don't want to be a skinny fat. That's a lot of things like that I've talked to a lot of people, but they're like, oh, well, I'm only getting 80, 90, 100 grams of protein, but yet they weigh 180 pounds and they want to get to 150. And it's like, okay, bump that number up and start eating more protein. They're like, how do you eat this much protein? I'm like, yeah, it's fucking hard. How do you think you got overweight? It's because, guess what? You're eating primarily carbs and fats, because that shit is not satiating and it doesn't make you feel full.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets easier, honestly. Like, I eat about 1.5 pounds of meat a day. So between meat and then protein shakes, I have every single day, I have 5 egg whites and 2 whole eggs because I like to have the fats every once in a while. But seven eggs basically, right? And then there's also protein in little things, like there's protein in rice, that adds up over time, over having 2.5 to 3 cups a day of jasmine rice. There's protein in sweet potatoes, there's protein in oatmeal, there's protein in all these different things. And so, like, when you start to add up all these sources, you start to track it. It's not as hard as people make it out to be. But like, 4 ounces of meat is not a lot, which is a serving, right? So 1.5 pounds is basically 6 servings, and splitting that up to like 2 serving meals, 8 ounces, 8 ounces, 8 ounces, is really not hard, and you just split it up throughout the day. Now, I don't typically. Sometimes I'll split up a little bit. but I split them into 2 different meals. So I'm having about 12 ounces each sitting that I have meat. And so, but that's just what works for me to get all of my protein in. I like to put bulk of my food in the evening and eat everything in the evening so that I don't snack in that night, because that's when I want to snack. Is like, that's what works for me. Late night hits, and that's when I'm like, dude, I want to have, and then my new snack is rice cakes, because I don't eat potato chips. And so, but the crunch from like a rice cake is the closest thing. And so I eat a lot of rice cakes. And so in order to not snack, I will eat a lot at dinner. I'll have 2.5, 3 cups of rice, like a pound or so of meat, and then a bunch of broccoli, like 6 cups of broccoli. And I feel great. And I'm like, that fills me up. And then it fuels me throughout most of the morning. Like, I haven't ate today yet, and I probably won't eat for another couple hours. So, but that's normal for me. So I kind of do intermittent fasting in a sense also. I just don't eat till the afternoon, and then I have my afternoon and evening when I do all my feeding. So everyone's kind of different in terms of their feeding windows.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because I mean, I'm like the same with you. I mean, when I do eat in the morning, like I do eat every morning, I eat egg, like a cup to a cup and a half of egg whites, couple eggs, and then a little bit of carbohydrates. I like the eggs to get the fats in. Then my lunch is basically like 4 to 8 ounces of ground beef, chicken breast, something of that nature, sweet potatoes, some sort of vegetables. Same thing for dinner. And then I don't know, I've been on a kick lately with protein ice cream, with my Ninja Creamy. I love that. I just love the protein ice cream. That's a
You need to
fat
get
kid,
one of those, bro.
dude.
I've been seeing those.
Dude, I highly recommend it. It curbs that sweet tooth. And another thing, I was on the what were those? The rice cakes for a while, and now I'm making a transition to Skinny Pop, because you can get a bag and it's like 140 calories, and that crunch. It's the closest thing you get to a chip for me between that and rice cakes.
So I like Skinny Pop. I just like rice cakes because there's 0 fat, whereas Skinny Pop does have fat. And I try to keep my diet as low fat as possible. I just want my fat coming from my meats. So, but every once in a while, I'll splurge. And when I say splurge, like I'll have like a bag of popcorn. That's splurging for me. I'm like, and I feel guilty. I'm like, oh man, this has 4.5 grams of fat in the whole bag.
Yeah.
So
have you had any issues in the past with like trying to run your fats too low? Because once you start running your fats too low, it does start fucking with your brain health. It does fuck with your hormones and stuff like that. So what do you roughly keep yours at?
I roughly keep mine at about 40 grams a day.
40?
Yeah. So like 40, 45 max. But so, and this is just a good note for anybody listening. When it comes to nutrition, it's like our body isn't on a 24-hour schedule in terms of the way that it takes in nutrition. Think of more like the week, right? So let's say that you're on, just for number's sake, 1,000-calorie diet, which no one is, but let's say 1,000-calorie diet. That means that really for the week, you need to be taking in 7,000 calories. So let's say you have a day that you take in 1,500 calories. You account for that on 2 other days where you take in 250 calories less the day before and the day after, right? And you still hit your 7,000 calories for the week, right? So like I'll have some days where I'll have higher fats, usually on the weekends, where I'll have a higher fat meal, right? And it's almost always going to be home cooked, but I might add cheese to stuff, right? And so, but for the most part, most of my days I'm going to be around 40 grams, and then I'll have like a day where I'll be like 65 or 70, or I'll have a lot of fish, like, and when I eat fish, typically I'll have tilapia, but a lot of times I'll have salmon. So salmon is a little bit higher in fat quantity. Like last night I had salmon. I had like a pound of salmon last night. So, which is a lot of fat. So, but that's fine for me. I'm okay with it, because like today I'm probably going to have chicken. So
yeah, that's solid. So one thing I usually ask my guests, well, I have been asking all my guests, what book has made the biggest impact on your life? I know you're a reader who reads every day, just like me, at least minimum of 10 pages. It's just a great habit to have for all you listeners. I was a kid that grew up and I fucking hated books. I literally read probably 2 books my entire, adolescence through high school, front to cover, 2 books. And then when I finally started doing 75 Hard, I didn't fall in love with reading right away, but I saw the benefits of it because I was able to talk to people. People like, Oh, dude, like you actually kind of know what you're saying, and it's from these books. I actually learned from these people. So, what book has made the biggest impact on your life?
That's a difficult one. I try to take an impact away from every book. Um, I will give, if you don't mind, because there's different books that have impacted me in different ways. So in terms of sales, the book that's impacted me in my sales ability, number one, has been Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. One of my favorite. I've read that book like 6 times, and the way he teaches negotiation tactics and the ability to get to the heart of an issue and actually get people to open up to you and see if you can even help and see how you can help and build rapport in a conversation is unparalleled. And I've adopted it in my sales style. Pretty like it's very heavily influenced with what Chris Voss teaches in the book because I've read the book so many times. And so, in terms of just personal development, I would say the next book is probably it's two I'm thinking about, but the one is I've read more times is going to be Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Like
I just started today. I literally just started that today, and I
dude,
read pages, and I'm stoked to get into it.
I'm
I
telling you,
love
the book is life changing. It's life changing.
I love Napoleon Hill, and another one that I was a big fan of was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and he talks
Yeah.
about Dale's book, like the first part of it, and that just made me super excited because that book right there has helped change my life. That was the biggest one. But what was your biggest takeaways from Outwitting the Devil?
Bro, dude, the book was written in 1938, wasn't released till 2011, and it's more applicable in our time than ever you can even realize. Um, but really, it's how a lot of these simple things that we've been talking about, like the whole conversation we've been having when it comes to like a lot of our weaknesses and our vices and wanting things easy, these are things that in the book are referred to as drifting by the devil. And like, these are ways that the devil uses to manipulate, control, and get you to not think for yourself, to get you to just be like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, oh, I'm just gonna go to McDonald's all the time, every day, like whatever, whenever I want, and not even realize. He even talks about food and how food massively impact people's health, therefore their ability to think, therefore their ability to be manipulated, controlled, therefore their ability to drift and be controlled by the devil. And he breaks it down in great detail. And it's just a powerful book. You know, when you start to think about how many ways that we are controlled, like how many times do you see ads from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, right? How often are you marketed to, right? Even with the news and like what's happening in the news, how much are we controlled by specific types of messaging in school, in church? And it makes you really start to question. And the only way to combat this is to have freedom of thought, is to have a definiteness of purpose, and like know what it is that you want to achieve. Freedom of thought to be able to assess whether something makes sense or not, and always focus on what it is that you want to achieve, no matter what, no matter if you think you're going to make it or not, no matter what the fear, what others tell you, right? These are all people, and you start to realize there's a lot of people that are controlled by the devil. And you can listen to, you can read. I listened to the audiobook and I read it. The audiobook's fantastic because their voices. I think it's more powerful, honestly, than reading it. But reading it or listening to it, if you I made the assessment that Napoleon Hill really did talk to the devil. That's my opinion, right? Just the way that it comes out and the way that it's portrayed, it's like, dude, it couldn't not have been, and I do believe he had the ability to mastermind and mastermind, like he talks about in Think and Grow Rich. And that's ultimately what he does in the book is he masterminds the devil in order to have a conversation with them, but he has a conversation in such a way that the devil has to answer honestly, almost like in a courtroom where he's being cross-examined by Napoleon. And I believe that he really did mastermind the devil. And I believe that the information he gives is actually great information to live by, right? but that's for everyone else to listen to or read and make their determination from that point. But that's a great book, man.
Dude, I can't wait to get dive into it. I'll probably go read some more after this of that. But no, with the whole thing with vices and stuff like that, I know I come from a background of having a lot of vices that I've been able to give up, like porn, drugs, alcohol, being abusive relationships, and just vices with food and addiction and all that stuff. And now knowing what I know now, that I've actually tapped into my spirituality and my faith with God and stuff like that, it's everyone is always looking for the external things to tell them what to do, but most people, they just need to listen to themselves. And because we are so manipulated and marketed all the time, that you don't get a time to think by yourself. That's why the highest achievers in the world that accomplish the biggest shit that you see everywhere, they listen to themselves. They are not indoctrinated by all the bullshit. They listen to themselves. They listen to their higher calling, and they look inward before they look externally. Because ultimately, I believe every person, if they would just take the time to listen to their thoughts and themselves, they would be able to answer every one of their fucking problems and find the solution within, without even having to reach out. Yes, there's certain situations in business where, say I might ask you for help on something that I'm stumped on that I can't figure out, because you have that experience. But most of the experiences you have, you can solve from looking within. And that's the number one thing. I feel like most people neglect is just looking inward before looking externally, because depending on your environment, which in Think and Grow Rich, he talks a lot about, you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. If you don't have a great network of people like you and I do, these people will lead you in the wrong fucking direction. They will fuck up your life, because most people, they'll listen to all these other people tell them what they should do, but ultimately, would you really trade places with that person and take their life? If the answer is no, then why the fuck would you listen to them? And that's something that I think most of the audience, and I mean, I know a lot of the audience have made the transition now that they listen week to week, that they're trying to make these things happen. But I think that, a lot of the problems in the world come from, just who you spend your time with. There's so many geniuses and people that could truly change the world, but yet they don't really think about, their environment that they're in all the time, that's really limiting themselves and their beliefs and what they're able to accomplish. And when I personally started to look at the people I was spending my time with, I saw it within myself, yeah, those are my qualities because I'm around these people. But now that I'm surrounded by people like you and all my Arete brothers and, my Kaizen group and all these other high achievers that don't necessarily put out limiting beliefs on myself, and they make me think even bigger, which, allows me to continue to grow. And I think so many people really struggle with that. So I kind of want to hear what your perspective on when you started to realize that within yourself, and just really realizing you are the sum of the people you spend the time with. Was there a transition period in your life where you had to make that transition where you're like, all right, I don't want to be like these people?
75 hard. When I finished 75 hard, dude, when I finished 75 hard, I was actually really pissed off at myself. Because I realized that through looking at my life in a different lens, of more of a lens of accountability and power, of I make everything in my life is because of me. It's because of decisions that I've made, right? And so I was a lot harder on myself, but because I started to take more accountability for everything I had done in the past, which allowed me to also find forgiveness and move on, so I can make different choices, right? And I think that's why a lot of people get held back and continue to do the same thing, is because they justify what they've done because of something somebody else did to them, right? It's always this justification. But through this process, because I saw all the bullshit I was doing, I started seeing all the bullshit that other people were doing too. And I became very keenly aware of the excuses that people made. And Andy talks about it like the boss voice, the bitch voice, right? Like my boss voice was loud, and my boss voice could pinpoint someone's bitch voice real quickly, and I'm not afraid to call it out. And so I wasn't that. I didn't want to be around those people, but I forced them away just by trying to level them up, right? But doing so in such a way that I'm like, hey man, you're being a bitch. Like these are just excuses. Stop making excuses. Like this is all on you. Like you got to get to work, right? You're using your bitch voice. Stop listening to that, and just calling people out. And people that are weak that listen to the bitch voice don't really like it. And I was like, I don't give a shit if you like it or not because it's the fucking truth. And that's just the way I was. But I was really hard on people, and I think just by the nature of what 75 Hard did for me and how I acted and in return, it pushed away a lot of those people that were in my life that had been holding me down. Because I became a recluse during those 75 days. I was like, work, because I was doing so much. I was like, I don't have time for shit else. Right. So I just naturally cut it out while I was doing 75 Hard. And I was like, yeah, it's only going to be two plus months anyways. I'll be fine. I didn't go out and do things. I didn't party. I didn't drink, like, because you can't. And the only time that I would ever go out and do anything outside of my house was when I went to the gym. And then on the weekends, I would go do a long run with my dog. And like we would go out in town somewhere and find a nice park or a nice path. But aside from that, like I was at my house working. So by the time I was done and I kind of came out into the real world, to the public, started hanging out with people, I was a different person, man. I was a different Greg. So like I'm sitting there listening to these conversations that have been taking place, that were always taking place, that I just didn't really realize that now I'm looking through a different lens. And I was like, you guys are talking about the most meaningless bullshit ever. Why is this even important to you? Like, and I would just call it out. I'd just be like, why are you guys fucking talking about this? Why does this even fucking matter? Like we can be talking about so many other things. Like, let's talk about like lifting each other up. Let's talk about getting to the next level. Let's talk about building our business. Let's talk about like, why do you guys care what so-and-so said about the other person? Why are we talking about another person right now that's not here? Like, let's talk about ideas, not people, right? That's fucking weak. Unless you're willing to call them up right now, let's call them up right now and get them on the phone so you can say it to them. How about that? Right? People are like basically I was the villain. Like, oh yeah, Greg's fucking weird. Like, it's like, no, bro, I'm just at a different level than you now, and that's all it is, and I'm fine with that, right? And so I kind of weeded people out that way, and there's other people like in my family, because there were some family members that are really limiting belief kind of people. And that I love them, but I don't spend a lot of time talking to them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because when I let that into my mindset, when I talk to people that literally are negative all the time, and it seeps into my mindset, like it affects me. So I have to be very careful about who I let into my life and who I talk to continuously. So
yeah,
that's how it happened with me.
it was basically like the same way, because I was always trying to pull people with me. Like when I was, like doing 75 Hard, and I was like, well, I'm going this route. You can either come with me or you're not going to be a part of my life. And I don't like hate you or anything. Like I love you, but guess what? I'm going this route, and I'm not going to let you weigh me down. You can either come with me or you're getting left behind. And that really helped just wean out the people that were willing to go and they want to listen to that bitch voice consistently. And like the people I hung out with a year ago are not necessarily the same people, or 4 years ago when I first started my journey. I don't know why I said a year ago, but 4 years ago are not even close to the same people I spent or give my time to now. Like same thing with my family with limiting beliefs. Yes, I love my family to death, but I will literally set a limit on how much time I spend with my family because how bad it is. Okay, I'm going to a family gathering. I even told this to my girlfriend. I was like, if I go to this family gathering, we are here for an hour max and we are leaving because I cannot do it. I just can't, because guess what? They're talking about other people. They talk about shit that's not important, or they, start talking shit to me because, oh, you can't eat this, or you can't do this, or like, oh, did you already get your workouts in? Yeah, I already fucking did. I already got my shit done. What about you? And they don't really like that. And they used to be like, all right, Oliver, no preaching to us today. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm kind of done barking up that tree. I know y'all ain't gonna change. Y'all are average. I'm sorry, but that's not who I am.
I will say that it took some time for me to not be evangelical about it and just preach it all the time, because it really is such a life changer that I'm like, everyone should be doing this. Like when you feel what it's like to feel like God mode, where you're like, dude, I'm fucking indestructible. Like I can do whatever the fuck, anything I put my mind to, it can happen, and it does. And when you get to that point, like it feels otherworldly. It feels superhuman, and everyone should feel that way. And I wanted everyone to feel that way, and that's why I became so loud about it. And then I would get angry when people wouldn't listen, right? And I had to be patient and realize that like what this ultimately comes down to is just leadership. I had to lead by example, and so I just had to be very patient. A good example of this is that my brother, my older brother Christopher, who I look up to immensely, like him and I grew up together, and always looked up to him, right? And he was in Hawaii, and I went and visited Hawaii at the beginning of this year in February. No, January. Yeah, it was January this year, something like that. Anywho, so I visited him at the beginning of this year, and while I was there, I just still followed all my tasks. I ate within my my macros, my calories, and that was when I was starting to build up to 1,000 push-ups a day. So while I was there, I was at 750 push-ups a day. I remember that. And so I was doing all these push-ups and I was doing workouts, and I inspired him. I didn't talk to him about it. I didn't, he just saw me do it. And when I left, he started doing push-ups all the time. And so he like texted me. He was like, "Hey bro, I'm doing 250 push-ups a day now." Just by seeing me do it, just by seeing the way that it impacted me and me leading by example. So instead of me even having to say anything, I just did it, right? He started eating a little bit healthier. He started getting more in shape. And then like his son, who he's married, and his wife had 2 kids coming into the marriage. So it's his stepson, but son nonetheless. His son's doing it now too, like wanted to like jump on and start doing push-ups with them, start working out with them. And I think he's in high school. I think he just started his 9th grade year. So it's like these little things that we can do to inspire and impact people just by leading by example, just by doing the work. And that's really what it comes down to, is ultimately we don't have to tell them. You don't have to tell anybody what to do, but you can show them what's the best path to lead just by doing it yourself.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, that's basically what we got time for today, guys. I just want to say thank you, Greg, for joining us. So where can the listeners find you, brother?
Dude, the best place to find me is Instagram. So my Instagram is Gregory A. Birch, BIRCH _. You'll see my ugly mug. And I put out content every day, and I try to help people. I try to inspire people to be the best version of themselves. And then you can check out my website. So my website is deltafitlife.com. deltafitlife.com. Either of those 2 places, the best place to find me or to find some of my content. You can reach out to me. You can send me a message on Instagram. I do check every single message, and I respond to everybody that reaches out. So, yeah.
Well, hell yeah. Yeah, I'll make sure to add your links and stuff in the show notes below. So make sure you guys check him out. This dude's an absolute unit for you guys listening on audio. Make sure you check out his page, because you guys will see why this man is just a massive human being in general, why he's able to do 1,000 push-ups a day. But it doesn't say that you can't do that. Also, it just takes time, like you said. So that's all we got for you guys today. I just want to say thank you once again for tuning in. And don't be afraid to share this podcast with someone that needs to hear it, because Greg is someone that'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. And always remember, there's a fresh hope for better you.